Hi, this is Josh, your movie apprentice, and depending on what platform you are currently on, you're either about to listen or watch myself and BAMTubeTV talk about community and picture ideas for the community movie. A quick forward though, when recording this episode of the podcast, it's been a while since I've done a podcast episode, and I was trying this new method of recording the webcams and audio, and whilst I still enjoy the conversation, that's why the episode is still going out, the audio did get a bit messy, let's say. So for the first 20 minutes, you're going to hear some echo when Brett is talking. And for some reason, the audio I was recording wasn't being picked up on my USB mic, but from my desktop mic. So I had to bump my volume right up because it was very quiet. And you might hear some fuzz when it's me speaking. As we just recorded the episode and I didn't realize till the end of it, that's how the audio has ended up, and I will be working that on future podcast episodes. But regardless, I still feel like this was a good episode. It was a fun conversation to have with Brett, and I do hope you all enjoy. Luckily, the echo issue only happens for the first 20 minutes when we're talking about the Pirates reboot and a brief conversation about The Last of Us 2. So when we get to the meaty community stuff, the echo should hopefully be gone. If not, it's maybe the first 2 minutes of the community chat. And my first, while it's there, isn't overly bothersome. So with that little fine print out the way, enjoy the episode. Hello, film fans of the world. Welcome to the Spikehead podcast, the show where I talk with a guest about films and movies and all the in between, purely because my IRL friends don't really have the same passion. So I am here today with my guest. You may know him. You probably do know him if you're on this channel. His name is Brett Murphy from BAMTubeTV. How are we doing today, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk about one of my all-time favorite shows, of course, some movie news and things like that. So, it's always a pleasure to get to chat with you and other fellow film lovers. So, I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, that's the one thing I feel that's come good out of this whole global situation is the fact that anyone that's like, oh, I'm too busy to collaborate, it's all happening now. I saw
exactly,
you.
Yeah.
The reason I reached out to you actually was I saw you on Ren's and Zach Pope's watch along with Avengers Endgame, and you guys talked about community halfway through. And I was kind of offended Red hadn't seen it yet because I was like, what are you doing? But you mentioned it, and I've always wanted to bring you on. I just never thought of the right subject line for it. So if you've not seen the title, we are going to be talking about The Rise of Community, which recently got a re-release on Netflix. Worldwide, it's growing in popularity finally, and as usual, we can't stop talking about that movie that we may never get. So we're both going to be pitching that in a short while. But before we get into that, just a couple of little tidbits, because a lot of stuff has happened since everything went to hell, basically. First of all, latest news from the Disney side of things, Pirates of the Caribbean might be getting a reboot with Karen Gillan and Johnny Depp out of it. What was your take on this? Sorry, even not about Pirates anymore because this franchise is so gone.
I was talking about this. I was on the Cinemania podcast a couple days ago, and we discussed this a little bit too. And I'll start off with my thoughts of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. I love the first three movies. I grew up on them. I adore them. 4 and 5, I don't really care for. But my biggest thing is, and I say this too, I like Karen Gillan. I like her a lot. She's not just easy on the eyes, but I think she's a fantastic actress as well. She's got a pretty wide range, right? She goes from things like Nebula, and then the way she is with Ruby Roundhouse in the Jumanji movies. But every time I try to picture her in those first three movies in particular, it just doesn't fit. She typically plays like the quirky kind of upbeat character a lot, I guess aside from Nebula, but even that, she's kind of like the awkward outsider, and I just can't picture her in this universe. So to me, if they want her to fit, the only way I can picture this kind of soft reboot happening is if, they almost try to spin it as like Disney's answer to the Jumanji movies, and they make it kind of really kid-friendly and things like that. And that for me just, it doesn't work with what Pirates of the Caribbean is in my mind. So, I mean, I'd like to be proven wrong, but just based off what little we know, I'm not too excited about it, I guess.
Yeah, with me, it's a case of same as you. I love Karen Gillan. I think she's a great actress. She is incredibly funny. I was actually watching a old Doctor Who episode with my flatmate the other night, and she's just doing the exact same Ruby Roundhouse stuff. It's pretty adorable. My only problem with it is the fact that it's so synonymous with the Jack Sparrow character. I was watching this video yesterday by Popcorn Planet where they were talking about it and arguing about it, and someone suggested that if they have like a sit film where it's sort of a passing of the torch, as it were, between Jack Sparrow and whatever character she would play, and then she would take the reins from there, because if they bring Johnny Depp back, which apparently they might still be doing according to some recent news I've seen today, then that could be a way to follow it forward. But at the same time, you're going to make a Pirates movie. You don't have to call it, I mean, I guess marketing and recognizable brand, but
Absolutely.
pirate movie don't live at Pirates of the Caribbean, and no one's going to be debating these sorts of things. But as you know, Disney loves their existing properties. I think Ariana could do good, definitely. She's like great actress, depending on the material she's given. I just hope if they do go with it, they don't lose the dark tone of the Pirates brand.
Absolutely, yeah.
The first three, as you said, I'll be honest, I'm not huge on the third one, purely because I just really enjoyed the first two, and the third one just felt like it dropped down a couple of levels.
Yeah.
I don't care for the fourth one. I actually am one of those people that sort of defend the fifth, because it's sort of like the end of mystical legend stuff and the takeover of science, and I like that aspect of it. But other than that, I don't know, it feels like they were clutching at straws for this franchise, because it really should have ended after three.
Absolutely, yeah. It worked as a solid trilogy, but the fourth one made a ton of money, so they that's what they were looking for. I think the fourth one even cracked over $1 billion as well. So of course the fifth one was inevitable, and at the time anyway, I think it's kind of lesser so now. But Johnny Depp was such a bankable star, and a lot of that too came from those movies being so big, and then Disney just kept going and going with it basically until they milked it dry, and now it seems like they're gonna take another crack at it, which again, yeah, I agree with you. I think it should have just been that original trilogy with Gore Verbinski and that original cast, and then they should have left well enough alone after that.
Yeah, there's a lot of tonal changes in that franchise, and poor Johnny Depp, he's been through a lot recently, and honestly, it's just, and he's getting a bit old to play the character. He's going to become like, if he keeps going, he's going to end up being a Liam Neeson of Pirates movies, basically. But moving swiftly on from those brief thoughts, another thing that's cropped us is less movie and more video game related. Now, are you aware of the Last of Us leaks? Don't tell me anything about them, because I managed to avoid them for the most part.
But yes, I am aware of them, but just like you, I've been fortunate, at least as of right now, to have avoided any leaks so far. So that's good.
Yeah, watching it, and I did find one leak that I'm not gonna spoil because I hate finding certain things out. But I'm looking at all the negative reaction, because there's people saying boycott Naughty Dog for this, that, and the other, and I'm still excited for the game, knowing what I know. But at the same time, I'm not going to buy it on release. I'm going to say I might buy it later down the line, because it feels like it's going to be one of those games where a lot of names are going to be thrown around, a lot of name calling is going to happen, which has kind of already happened. You look on like IGN's comment sections, it is almost laughable, which is such a shame, because the first game is just such a classic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, honestly, it's a shame that it's now getting this backlash, but I'm still looking forward to it. I don't want to maybe just kind of wanted to talk about it briefly, because it's one of those where it's got two sides of the fence and names being thrown, and that's just not a very healthy atmosphere to have. But tell you what, in fact, a good segue actually, since Community's gone to Netflix, because we're going to get back into our topic here. So I'm part of like this meme group on Facebook, which is like all these community memes, and since it's picked up again, a lot of people have joined these groups, and there's a bit of gatekeeping and some, let's say, childish arguments going off, but I'm just there for memes, so who knows. But Community, when did you first get exposed to it?
I'm trying to remember exactly when, because actually since it came on Netflix and you had contacted me about doing the podcast, I started rewatching it, and I actually ended up getting my younger brother, who was 14, interested in the show, and now he's hooked on. He's already on season 2, and he loves it. I can't remember. I remember watching the majority of it live. It might have been after season 2 or after season 3, around that area, and it was actually one of my friends from school at the time had introduced me to it, saying like, "Oh, I think this is right up your alley. I think you're really gonna love it." So he introduced it to me, and then it was, he was right. I immediately fell in love with it, and I just could not stop watching it. I couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah, that sounds similar to me actually. I was living in with my best mate from university in second year, and this was about 2013, I think. And he was talking to me about the show. He naturally showed me the Chaos Theory episode first. That was
Hmm.
the first one I watched, and I think season 4 had just finished and season 5 was just coming out. He had this habit of getting me into things when the next season was coming out. It's like he got me in the Game of Thrones between season 3 and 4, like that
Hmm.
sort of shenanigan with it. I don't know what it was that made me fall in love with it, though. We sort of watched it out of order. He just showed me some of the big episodes. Like I never watched it start to finish until he'd show me all like the big ones, like your paintballs, the D&D episodes, the
Right.
Chaos Fairy one. Showed me all those. And when I came back to the start finally, I was actually quite taken aback by how different the characters were then to what they end up becoming. But going into that, what would you say some of your favorite episodes?
There's so many. I mean, I think I kind of fall in line with a lot of other people, and it's kind of the generic responses for people who love the community episodes. But of course, you have the paintball episodes. They are fantastic. Each and every one of them is hilarious in their own right, and I like how they kind of change them a little bit. Like one of them is kind of like just generic, like survival story paintball, and the other one's like old west styled. And then they had like an espionage one in the last season, and they really kind of put their own spins on them. Those are all great. Some of the more like, of course, my favorite one though is the one with the chaos theory one, the remedial chaos theory. That one's by far the best episode. It's absolutely hilarious and it's pure genius too. The finale I actually too thought was really really great. And there's a few other little ones here and there that I enjoyed, like the advanced Dungeons and Dragons or like the digital estate planning where they have to play through the game in order to get Pierce's inheritance. And there's a few other ones here and there that I had listed down to make sure I didn't forget them. I also, the one I just watched a little bit before we did this episode was the epidemiology one, which is like the zombie outbreak one that they have at the Halloween party.
Oh
It's another one, right? They're classic episodes, and they're pretty much everyone's favorite. But it's no different for me. I've watched those ones in particular like just numerous times, and I love them, and I laugh every single time. It hits the feels, hits all the right spots, and yeah, they're by far some of my favorite episodes.
yeah, it's literally one of those sitcoms that has everything. It has them heartfelt moments. It has them sweet little moments. It has everything. Like
Mhm.
me, when it got announced for Netflix, I'm like, right, I'm gonna do a top 10 episodes ranking video. I started on season 4 because everyone always hates that season for some reason. I'm like, I don't get it. So I went and watched it again, and now I sort of see it, but I
Mhm.
stand by it. Still has some banging episodes.
Yeah.
Noting an episode that I think, oh, that's top tier. And so I ended up going from 4 to 6, then 1 to 3. And I think after 4 to 6, I had about 8 episodes. By the time I did 1 to 3, I had 30 episodes, and I just couldn't put it
Yeah.
down. So I'm like, right, what can I do instead of ranking? Oh, yes, I could just chat about community. Me personally, I feel like 5 was the weakest because on the list I had 3 episodes from 4, 2 from 5, 3 episodes from 6. That's how mine ended up
Mhm.
ranking going. But my personal favourites, aside from the obvious ones, like I love the first episode, that's fantastic. Because my favourite paintball one has to be the part 2 of the $100,000 one, where it's in
Right.
Star Wars ripoff. It went from Western to Star Wars, if I'm not correct.
Yeah, that was such a, and they named them after the Clint Eastwood movies too, wasn't it? It was like a few paintballs, or
Yeah,
a fistful of paintballs and a few paintballs more. That's what it was.
it
It's
was
genius, right?
fantastic.
Everything top to bottom with that show, the writing, the titles, everything is so fantastic, right? They had such genius writers for that show. It's gold.
I just love seeing the credits now because back when I was watching Community, I'll be honest, I wasn't into the MCU as much. I think I'd seen Avengers because everyone said I had to, and I saw Guardians when it came out. Fun story is my friend wanted to go to the cinema, and I wanted to watch Dawn of the Planet of the Apes because that was out at the same time. And he was like, "Oh, let's go watch Guardians." I was like, "You tell me I need to watch every Marvel film to get it." He's like, "Oh, don't worry, it's in space. You won't get it." And I absolutely loved Guardians, and obviously since then watched pretty much all of it. I think I've only seen apart from 2 of the Ironmans and 2 of the Fours, I've seen everything else.
Mhm.
And uh, oh, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, I love that. I watch the credits now. I see Dan Harmo and the Russo brothers in there. That just brings smiles to
Yeah.
my face every time. Like, I just hope that they make a lot of references to the Russos. If they ever do the movie, I want a lot of Russos in the Marvel movie
Yeah.
references constantly flying out. Oh, and the Blanket Fort episode. Well, actually, before I jump into that one, my favourite bit of the A Few Paintballs More episode, I think Jeff's behind the bush outside and he gives this amazing speech, a call to arms, whatnot. He stands up over the fence, gets shot, he just says, I'm out.
Yeah, oh, it's fantastic.
Just the comedic timing in that show is brilliant. And obviously the blank episode, that's probably one of my favourite episodes as well. And the lava one was pretty good as well, just for the ending. That ending tears me up every single time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really glad they brought Donald Glover back for this reading. And oh yeah, they always say Brit is the worst, and just kind of see this debate all the time. Who is the best? Who is the worst member of the community cast?
Best and worst. That's a tough one, right? Because I do love them all for different reasons, and I think that's such a big part of why the show is so good. Is that each character kind of represents different, walks of life and different personality traits for people. If I had to, especially after this rewatch, I would probably say that Abed is my favorite because I find that now after all this time and kind of starting my YouTube channel and things like that, I kind of resonate with him the most and his movie references and his TV show references and stuff like that. So I think Abed's probably my favorite. And least favorite, it's so hard to pick because I really don't dislike any of them. Um, if we're talking about original cast only from like the first three seasons, I would say Shirley, it took me a while to warm up to her, and then it was hit or miss. Sometimes she was really funny, sometimes she kind of got on my nerves because she was a character that I found didn't change a whole lot. But if we're talking about like throughout the entire show, I didn't really care for Frankie all that much when she showed up. I mean, it was some nice little character moments of her kind of, not being such a hard ass all the time and stuff, but overall, I found her character to just be kind of really wooden, and I didn't really kind of gravitate towards her, especially with the finale, and they're kind of reminiscing about like what could be the season 7. I just I didn't care for her to really be there all that much. I didn't feel anything towards her. So yeah, altogether I would say Frankie, but if just the OG cast, I'd probably say Shirley.
Yeah, with me, it's sort of a similar thing. I always like asking that question because it's always talking over who's the worst, literally, because obviously Brit is the worst joke. I would say, yeah, Arbe's my favourite because I just love his meta references.
Mm-hmm.
Half my conversations when I'm just with friends end up just being references. So I just love that. If you take Arbe out the show, it feels like a big chunk of it's missing. Obviously, if you take
Absolutely.
any of them out of the show, something goes missing. Like after Donald Glover left, I felt something went missing there because
Yeah.
they had Troy and Arbe's dynamic, and they took Shirley out. I will be honest, I didn't feel Shirley's missing as much as I did for the others. In terms of the characters they brought back in, like I love Buzz Hickey. I'm sad that he is not in the last season. So I really enjoyed him. I didn't mind. Is it Elroy, the one that was in the back?
Elroy, yeah, it was Keith David, yeah.
Elroy was a fun little character, but yeah, I see what you mean. Frankie just sort of felt there like a more stricter older Annie. If I had to put a label on her, I don't.
Yeah.
Really, she never gets a proper standout moment. Whereas I feel like
Mm-hmm.
Hickey and Elroy do. Like Hickey's bit with Arbed with the art, and he's got Arbed handcuffed. That's actually one of
Right.
my favourite bits of season 5. Is just them two creatives clashing ideas. I just love seeing that being brought to a small screen. And in terms
Mm-hmm.
of my least favourite, honestly, same here. It's Shirley. Like people always seem to argue Shirley or Pierce, and I would argue that Pierce had, even though he was the worst kind of person,
Yeah.
did have those random heartfelt moments that I don't think Shirley got enough of. Like Pierce was occasionally just dropped like a big dollop of wisdom. Like early example is where he's got that listening in earpiece. And then,
Yes, exactly.
I think it's like, oh, I got rid of it because it's this strange people we love. Even in season 4, where Jeff's like giving Britta all this for the dance, then it's Pierce that says, look, give the girl a break. And this is, whereas with Shirley, I can't think, the only memorable episode with Shirley, I think, was the foosball episode, which
Yes.
always cracks me up purely for the anime section of it. Yeah, that's how I'd put it. I'd put Arbit top, Shirley bottom, though I relate to this Frankie feeling because she just didn't really add much. I mean,
No,
no,
not
not
really.
really. Wouldn't mind seeing her follow up because obviously she's part of the crew now, but just feels like out of all the characters that had all these great little quirks and personalities, she was the least developed.
Yeah, that's definitely the way I feel too. She had a few moments where she kind of came out of her shell and she kind of let loose a little bit, but I found that sort of went away. Like I said, especially over my rewatch of the last season, she has those moments where it seems like she's really becoming part of the group, and then it's all of a sudden like the next episode she's back to just where she was from the beginning, and she's has all these rules and all these restrictions, and she's not willing to let loose. So I found she was kind of very flip-floppy that season, and yeah, like you said, I felt that really just made me not care for her all that much or really gravitate towards her character, and yeah, she didn't add much.
And before we get into the big meaty fun part of the episode, another favourite character question. So we have obviously the main study group or say green community, whatever genre you want to go for. But who's your favourite side character? Like a side character that pops up a lot but is never really part of the core cast.
If you It's a tough one. Are we talking like very small side character? Not very small, but like side character, like someone like Leonard or Garrett, or are we talking like Chang and the Dean?
At this point, I sort of put Chang and the Dean as part of the group because they're like always.
Yeah, especially towards the last season, they're very much a part of the group. If we were counting them in the earlier seasons as side characters, I would say the Dean because he never fails to make me laugh ever. I think he's one of the top tier characters on that show. I find him hilarious. But if we're talking for the actual smaller side characters, I honestly, there's so many, right? There's so many ones that either are kind of mediocre, then others get a bit more spotlight, and others are left out a little bit. But I don't know. I kind of like Leonard because not only is he hilarious and he has these just such random moments throughout the show that can be so funny and catch you off guard, but that also led to the kind of running gag where it was always he would pop up, say something completely random, and then it would just be shut up, Leonard, and then kind of get into a little tangent like that. So I found that Leonard's little moments would often, like I said, kind of catch me off guard and make me chuckle, but it would also lead to that running gag that always it always followed the same suit. It would be someone would say shut up, Leonard, and then followed by like whatever, like your nephew emailed me last week, I know all about your whatever, or something like that, right? So that running gag always made me laugh, so that's why I kind of feel like he was just kind of almost like a wholesome part of the show that would always kind of make you laugh. And he was always, kind of the older gentleman that was always stuck at Greendale. And I kind of felt like he had a bit more of a story to him than the show always led on to. So I felt that he was a pretty solid side character.
Yeah, Leonard, I absolutely love Leonard. I feel like an underrated episode is actually the episode where Pierce joins Leonard and his gang. And they just end up acting like teenagers even though they're all really old.
Yeah.
And that was a really good joke. Personally, if I had to pick one, because I'll be honest, I hadn't thought about this until I just thought of it literally as we were recording this.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking now, I'm like, I would have to say Garrett just because he has some standout comedic moments.
Yeah, definitely.
One in particular has to be, well, first up, the paintball episode where he's the one telling Jeff about the prize and the way he just sells this big mystery about what is the prize. Crisis Alert has become a new meme of the Community franchise, I've noticed recently. And hey, I'm not gonna lie, I loved his little wedding episode in the last season. That was a little episode. I just feel like he had a lot going for him and he was just a lot of fun when he was on screen. I was gonna go Neil originally, but when I think about it, outside of D&D episodes and the what's that episode that was like Law and Order where I've been trying detectives now? What's it? They smashed the fruit thing.
Yeah, I can't even remember. I remember seeing bits of the episode and I can picture it, but I can't remember the name of it though.
Yeah. Well, the Yam, that's it, the Yam episode.
Right. Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, and they get Shirley, and she's like, "All right, you have like 48 hours, or the case goes cold, and you have to find me, like, bring me everything, all the clues. Gotta bring me whatever." Like, oh yeah, no, that was funny. That was a good one.
It's like, you do not have the right to remain silent. There is nothing you can say that can be used against your nemesis. You don't have to come with us, but we'll really appreciate it if you do.
Yeah.
Just those little moments where just rips everything is absolutely fantastic. But coming into the reason why we are here, I'm just going to go through why I thought, this is a great time to talk Community. obviously, it's come on Netflix, and I believe, where is it now? Yeah, Alison Brie, the actress that played Annie, replied to someone asking her about the movie, and she said something like, I'll find the actual note here. I've bookmarked a load of stuff here. Hang on, where are we? Yeah, actually got an interesting call about it this week. Stay tuned. And then more was added to the fire when Yvette Nicole Brown tweeted out a picture of this, saying, I also got a really interesting call. And suddenly everyone's gears are turning. We've got Joe McHale and Ken Jeong, who are now doing a Darkest Timeline podcast. Have you seen that, by the way?
I have not seen it, actually.
Go on YouTube after this. It's just Joe McHale and Ken Jeong just talking about normal things. And I've not seen a new episode, but I think they've got Yvette Nicole Brown in it as well. So that's a nice little thing. But they literally call it the Darkest Timeline podcast. And they have, the 8-bit episode you're telling me, like we were talking about, the name. I can't remember now off the top of my head, because the names of these episodes are so good. But I'm just like, yep, that's the gaming episode. That's Paintball 2. That's D&D 2. But the image is literally Joe McHale's little 8-bit character, and they've got a Ken Jeong character there as well. And they have a good dynamic going about him, though. Damn, Joel has aged a bit. But actually, and what else was there? Obviously, they have this reading on the May 18th. So by the time this episode's up, if you don't know about it, go give it a listen. I believe it's the last Troy episode, isn't it? Or is it the one?
I think so.
Will. It's one of Troy's last 2 episodes. And I have a feeling that could do really well. I have a feeling that this whole Greenlight in the movie might just depend on how big that stream goes. Just seeing this.
Yeah.
And it's going to be big. I definitely think it's going to be big.
But, yeah, and I think it'll depend on the Netflix move, too. I think it'll depend a lot on those numbers, because if we're lucky, it might be sort of like a Netflix thing, and maybe that's what they're trying to see. Is, if it ends up pulling big numbers on Netflix, then maybe it'll end up being like a Netflix original movie, and maybe they'll fund it. So hopefully that's what will come out of that.
Yeah, that's definitely where they're going. Like, if there ever was the movie, I know for a fact it's not going to be a theatrical thing. It's definitely going to be a Netflix original.
Oh yeah, exactly. Something small scale like that.
Like, I feel like that would work for the show, but the numbers are looking good. Like, I've not looked into the numbers, but I remember when it first came out over here in the UK. I don't know what it was like in Canada, but with us, I think it was like in the top 10 most popular for like 2 and a bit weeks before it dropped over there. So I feel like, as I already mentioned, there's been a wave of new fans just getting into it. So
yeah, exactly.
I remain optimistic, and the internet buzz has just been outstanding about it so far. It's been great to see. And yeah, so we talk about the potential of a movie, but what if there was a movie? Well, dear listeners or watchers, depending on what platform you're seeing this on, we are both about to pitch our dream idea for a community movie. I warn you in advance, mine's like the most cheesy bollocks ever. Yeah, just so there's no one that missed it, I'm going to flip this quarter that I've kept for 2 years to see who goes first. Yes, I'm creating 2 different timelines. Sue me. Better than 6. Right, so Brett, heads or tails? You get it right, you go first. You get it wrong, you go second.
Okay, I'll go heads.
Heads, right. Oop, I caught it. Oh, it's tails. Shit. Right, I've got to set the bar. Right. Okay, I've got to bring my notes up. Like, I've did some brief notes last week, and then hello. But I'm going to set the scene for you. So I'm thinking, right, community movie. What you need is your antagonist, right? Every film needs an antagonist, or at least some counteracting force. And as much as I love the show, one aspect that always disappoints me is the payoff to the Darkest Timeline. I'm not huge on that finale in season 4, but in the episode it's implied that was all in Jeff's head the entire time. So I'm like, right, I'm going to roll with that. So that's going to be our villains. It's the Darkest Timeline lot, but it's in the year 2020, 2021. So years have passed. A lot of stuff has changed in between then and now. And so we set the scene. So obviously, end of the series. As far as we know, everyone's still at the college apart from Elroy, who's moved to California for a job. Annie got an internship at the FBI, so she's got to go to Washington. And Ahmed's got an internship in Hollywood, so he's also gone to California. But as far as we know, everyone seems to be still at Greendale. And I like to think they still are. So we open the scene, and we're going to open with Abed. He's on a film set, bringing coffees round. He's no longer just an intern. He's now a production assistant, which is basically an intern. Abed being Abed, he's got to go to the director and give his like, oh, this is a trope and that's a trope. Like, do his usual meta stick. And this director, for a joke, I've just put Denis Villeneuve. I've just put any director that you think's like a big visionary director. He gets really offended that Abed's questioning him. Like, spills his coffee, throws a paddy. Nice little comedic opening just to get you back into the vibe of, hey, here's your meta character. He's going to be making a lot of these jokes in this film. So we get to that. And, oh, God, there's a lot of notes. Well, yeah, so Abed is late and he's chilling with the editors in the editing suite when suddenly we get a nice little power cut. And Abed senses something because Abed always seems to sense something when it's out of the ordinary. So he goes back into the film lot, and who else is there but Evil Abed? And he's obviously going to ask, wait, didn't we already deal with this? And Evil Abed's going to be like, oh, you talk about the gas leak Jeff hallucination? Yeah, that one real, mate, basically. Just, again, reiterate to the whole gas leak excuse for season 4, which was given in season 5. Lean on that, make some of the haters of that season happy. And I was basically saying, look, basically Chang from the Evil Universe, he has basically sworn all the resources, so thanks to a source from this great timeline is allowing them to come through, basically, and they're going to just basically try and erase the good timeline and insert themselves into their spot, so they're like in a better element. And then, let's see, so Abed being Abed says, right, I need to make a call, look into this. So we cut to the FBI, and Annie is now working on a desk where she's just listening into the calls that people are making around the world, because they 100% listen to everything, and we're just going to lean on that little joke. Annie's going to be offended by something she's heard over the phone, something gratuitous, most likely, knowing Annie. And she's going to go to her boss, complain, and boss is going to do the usual dickhead move. It's like, look, you're basically just here to make it the numbers, yada, yada, yada. She storms out, and we got Abed, who calls her up and tells her everything. And actually, Annie's going to be like, Abed, what are you talking about? You're just doing usual Abed things, ain't you? And he's just going to bring Evil Abed on, because Evil Abed's not gone. He's stuck around. So she's like, well, there's 2 Abeds, and Abed's going to make some sort of special effects jokes saying, yeah, this special effects, I'll give him like a robot eye or something. Like, lean into the Terminator references a little bit. And then, let's see, what else did I put next? So this is like a long list of stuff. But you're with me so far. If you want to chime in at any point on that stuff, let me know. And then, let's see. Oh, yeah. So Annie's asking how Evil Abed got there. Evil Abed's like, well, I figured out in the first place, and I refused to give Jeff and that the information, so I was able to come through freely. The others, they're going to be let through by someone else that will reveal later down the line. So after that, they decide, right, we need to go home being Greendale. And I decide, because out of everything that the Evil Abed has described to her as to what's needed to bring yourself over from timeline to timeline, she has a feeling she knows someone that might have that. She's going to make a detour. So after the little home truth bomb, we cut to Greendale. Good, lovely Greendale after what's probably 10 minutes into the movie. And catch up on some of the cast. Chang's now a drama teacher because he had that drama sequence in season 6. So I feel like Chang deserves a little bit of payoff. Britta, because her psychiatrist stuff is not going very well, she now teaches politics at Greendale and just does pro bono psychiatry stuff on the side because she is, as we know, the worst. And we got Frankie briefing Dean about his days, errands, Frankie being Frankie stuff, and Dean just doing his usual Dean stressing Deanie puns. And Jeff's going to burst in, and he's annoyed because the Dean has basically just booked another law class, so he's now got to teach clue classes and do twice the work rather than one. And then he's going to make a joke. It's like, oh, it was popular, and totally not, because I wanted to keep you around the office a bit more. Like, just usual Dean, Jeff, throwback banter, allude to that old dynamic. And then have a brief bicker, and Jeff, not happy, he storms out the hall. He's walking down, and then someone calls out behind him saying, Jeff. He turns round, and it's Troy. All bearded, all worn down, all like he's obviously aged a lot in the time because he left in 2014, so 6-7 years have passed by this point. And let's see. And Troy's back. He goes up to Jeff saying, hey, where is everybody? And Jeff's like, yo, it's been 6 years. All these people have gone their separate ways, which leaves Troy a bit dejected. We have LeVar Burton do his little cameo, comes in, says, oh yeah, your inheritance has been accepted, but Troy's not happy about that. He's not bothered about the inheritance because now he's sad that everything's changed since he was last there. And that's how we slide our good old Donald Glover back into it. And he just starts to talk about how he misses friends. I'm going to cut to our bed. The two Arbeds in the hotel, well, in an airport, waiting, and never met a joke. This is the part where something will kick off the plot. I was like, no, not really. But then, boom, another power cut. So, good Arbed's like, right, we need to find another way home rather than get a plane back to Colorado. So, him and the other Arbed bail to someone else. And what else we got? And after that, we cut down to a desert. We have Terminator, rip-off Sparks, and we have our evil study group show up. And they walk past the sign, all intimidating, saying Greendale, 5-10 miles away or whatever. Full on like Terminator 1 music and everything. And they have guns. Are they paintball guns? Yes, they are totally paintball guns. But they're going to get more lethal as the thing goes on. After we have all that, we cut back. Troy's asking all these questions about what's happened to everyone. So Jeff establishes that Magnitude is now a DJ. That's where I think he ends up. Neil now runs an esports cafe, and Garrett is now happily married with 2 kids, keeping that relationship together. And Britta walks in, because now the study room, because they say Greendale, they just use it as a place to plan where they're going for a drink after work, basically. So Britta walks in, stresses out, sees Troy. She's happy to see him. They reunite. Chang walks in, bitching about the lack of quality in his acting class because he thinks he's a god because of his acting career. And he obviously references that he kept Troy's seat warm because if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure Chang was sat in Troy's seat after Troy left, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he kind of bounced around a little bit, I think, but I think that's primarily where he was Troy's seat. It was right next to Abed at the top of the table, I believe, on the corner.
Yeah, because I just remember that briefly because Chang says something about, like, oh, you're going to replace all us non-whites, and says to him, don't matter.
Yes, yeah.
That little side reference. Yeah, so we make a little reference about that. I'm just trying to fly through some of this boring pre-stuff goes down stuff. What else we got here? Oh yeah, Dean and Frankie walk past, and obviously Dean is very happy. He's prepared an entire confetti replacement, but he completely forgot about it. So he's like, right, I need to go get changed into my welcome back Troy outfit. Leaves the room, and but Troy is he's happy to see everyone. He's just missing Arbed. So Jeff's like, well, I've still got Arbed's number, so he's FaceTiming Arbed. They have a nice little hey buddy moment. It's not the big reunion moment, but it's a nice little hey, how you doing? We see over Arbed, and Arbed tries to warn him about the evil ones, but like with Randy, because they've got another Arbed right next to him, and he's in a truck right now being driven, which is actually being driven by Elroy, because he moved to California as well. So off screen, I was just gone, knocked on Elroy's old RV that he's still got. And it's like, right, we need a lift back to Greendale. That's how that starts. And anyway, Arbed sees behind him, Evil Jeff's entered the room. So we got Evil Jeff walking, and he pulls out a gun, which Jeff sarcastically points out that's just a paintball gun. What are you going to do with that, basically? But these... Oh, wait, what's that? Just Arbed making more jokes, another thing. I'll just throw in Arbed makes a joke here and again. Let's see. Basically, the way these paintball bullets work is that while they are harmless to others, they'll simply knock other people out. They will actually disintegrate the counterpart that's firing them through some DNA mumbo jumbo. So suddenly it's like not just the campy, oh, this is fun. This is actually like, no, there is actually some because we've got to raise the stakes. It's a movie. It's got to be
A little bit, yeah.
more deadly stakes. So Frankie gets hit and just gets knocked out. I'll be honest, I couldn't think of much to do with Frankie in this. So
Exactly. It's the point we're making. Exactly.
I was like, what do I do with Frankie? I'm there going through all this, trying like, what do I do with these characters? So Frankie is at the equation, but luckily they manage to escape. Shirley pulls up outside in her little Shirley Sandwiches van. She's now got a mobile Shirley Sandwiches van. So they all jump in apart from Dean and Frankie, because Frankie's knocked out and Dean's like, I'll hold the fort. And the dark Sam ain't bothered about Dean because they're not who they're trying to replace. So they drive away. That's a little inciting incident. And, I actually flew for that, but that was a big paragraph. So after that, we cut to Annie pulling up outside the place because there's this rare material that's used, according to Evil Abed, to get through. And Annie knows from her work in the FBI, knows one person that may have that stuff. She knocks on the door and answers is good old Starburns. He has a name, but he's Starburns. And Annie interrogates him, but finds out that he's sold it off to Leonard. Leonard was actually an awkward one to write about because the actor's actually, unfortunately, no longer with us. So Starburns sold it off, and Annie realizes that, you've given him bad instructions, basically. And alludes to that's what's eventually causing his demise. She tases Starburns, because why not? And says, I can't believe people think you're the Ashcraft bandit. I'd never answer it because I didn't want to answer it. I almost did, but I was like, nah, I'm going to leave it open-ended. But got to reference the Ashcraft bandit somewhere. That bit goes off. So, where am I now? I've lost track of where I am. Okay, yeah, there we go. So I've got to mention, as they were leaving, they screamed with meeting Annie and Abed back at their place. Because their place, obviously they're not going to be there because they've moved since. They've gone to their own different places. But we also remember it was Troy and Abed's and eventually Annie's apartment that formed the little Chaos Theory episode. So the evil lot burst in. They reminisce a bit. Talk about Pierce briefly because he dies there. Talk about this is the table where it's off again. Just cheesy, campy dialogue like that. And the new homeowner enters the room. We don't see who they are, but this evil gang know who it is. And it's implied that that's the person that's helped them. And we'll get to that person in a bit. So after that, they also say we need to send a message because spoiler alert, they are not the head honchos of this. It's actually someone managing them from afar. So we cut to Shirley. Usual classic community banter. There's like a triple FaceTime going off with the Arbeds, Annie, and the gang. And Annie gets Ava to meet her at the school because they need to get some information on where Leonard's living. So that happens. And they show up, but the dean breaks to them that Leonard actually died a couple of weeks ago and that they need to, but his belongings, because they were never claimed by his kids, they were kept at this memorial service place. So okay, let's go then. And what else did I put there? Oh yeah, Troy's getting a bit jealous of the evil Abed as well during that previous FaceTime exchange. Forgot to mention that because he's not seen Abed, and Abed's now hanging out with his counterpart, basically. And then and evil Abed basically says that in order for the paintballs to take you out, it needs to be matching DNA, but it can only one person's at a time. So basically, Jeff's DNA is in the paintball gun for Jeff, and because it can only affect him, it's not going to affect anyone else, and that's why everyone's using their own paintball guns. So someone would jump around that. I don't know. I'm not a big science fiction writer.
It's fine. It's a community movie. It's fine. You don't need to make sense of everything.
Exactly. It's just all this campy stuff. But yeah, they go. They meet outside the memorial service. Dean stays back in case the evil people return, and he himself makes a couple of calls. So the gang meet outside this memorial service. They pull up outside. They go in, and it's like this is the big reunion finally. Like Annie and Jeff finally hug after all this time. Troy and Abed meet up, do the thing. That's their big moment. And Shirley's getting all juice with the two Arbeds, like saying, "Oh, this ain't right. There's two of you. This ain't right." Like that sort of dynamic. And Shango laments that he is always wanted an evil twin, basically, because he's jealous of Abed. And they reminisce about Leonard briefly because they didn't know he died. Sadly, it's one of those people that they wouldn't have known about, but they found out later down the line anyway. But anyway, they go into the memorial place, and the runner of the memorial place is Buzz Hickey. because people like to theorize because of this email he's either dead or he's got a memorial home. And I want Buzzhickey back, so I'm like, right, let's have him own a memorial home. So they find Leonard's belongings and discovers that Leonard had actually collaborated with a third party, and Leonard cracked the code somehow. We don't know how, but he's cracked the code for the paintball, so they're able to do that. Because the third party is actually selling off the technology to bring the evil people over to City College, and that person is Todd. Don't know why. Probably because he's just so sick of everyone calling him the worst and how he's awful, even though he's done all this amazing stuff. So it's like, right, I'm just going to make a world where it's the worst version of everyone, so I'm fine. And yeah, we cut back to the evil versions in a car behind Todd, and Todd delivers a monologue, basically. And let's see. Yeah, Todd's family life crumbled. Groups are calling him the worst, made him bitter. So he's basically just trying to equalize the playing field effectively. And the gang, because Todd's called them here, the gang say, right, we challenge you to a showdown at Greendale. And so the call ends. Double gangers go to City College first. They have to make a pit stop. And they meet the evil dean from there, whose name I cannot for the life of me remember. I can never remember the guy's name. Just the other dean, the bad dean. And it turns out he's got a science lab. He can beam someone in. And he beams in the Chang from the Darkest Timeline. If I remember correctly, he's a dictator. And he's taken over the world somehow over there. That's how it's got so dark. He knocks the City College guy out. And they bounce to go square off with our lovely little study group. So they arrive at the school, but the study group are not alone. Every single side character is there. Dean has put out a massive email chain, sort of like Avengers Endgame style. All the small characters are there, showing up all their own paint guns. Dean just promised them one last epic paintball fight, basically. So they just think it's a paintball fight and not anything serious. So fights ensues. You see all the lovely characters. You see Magnitude. You got Garrett showing up. Neil, Vicky. They're all there. Even Mrs. Her that Jeff was dating in the first one. Duncan's in this as well. I had to get Duncan in here somewhere. Duncan arrives here. And so all this happens. And basically we end up in the study room where it all begins. And they're cornered. They're shafted basically. But luckily, Evil Abed reaches out to Evil Troy and talks about friendship and power and love and all that stuff. And Evil Troy was like, all right, buddy. And him and Real Troy shake hands and they merge. Turns out you ain't got to wipe them out. You can actually merge us to one person now. You're both the best and worst parts of yourself as one. Sort of a metaphorical thing.
Right, okay.
Shirley is looking after her family, shows up. And Evil Shirley, because Evil Shirley, she's been an alcoholic this whole time, whereas Good Shirley, she's a successful businesswoman, has raised this strapping pair of kids, fixed her broken marriage, she's done great. So they reconcile. Evil Britta's just like, I can't be bothered, because Britta just can't be bothered with anything. So she shakes hands with Britta. They have like this weird Britta-esque conversation. I couldn't think of a reason something like Britta does Britta things, basically.
Yeah, that's all you gotta put.
Basically, and then
I'm sure that's all the writers put anyway. Britta does Britta things. Because Britta's the worst.
Britta's this line, basically. Jeff and Annie try to convince their counterparts to join them, but the Jeff in this world is still this evil, blood-sucking lawyer. Annie's just still a child that's obsessed with Jeff. So she doesn't want to be in this world where Annie and Jeff aren't boning, and Jeff doesn't want to be in this world where he's working in this crummy school. So he struggles, but somehow up steps Britta and actually does some psychiatrist stuff that actually works and gives her a reason to be in this, and she is actually not the worst. And that gets both the Annie and the Jeff to be like, okay, fair enough. And they merge, so it's just down to the Changs, and we have Dictator Chang, who's like our season 3 Chang enhanced, and you got our Chang, who I'll be honest, I always felt bad for Chang in the show, because he just wants to be part of the group so bad. He just wants to be part of the family, and Chang's like, hey, I found the family and that, and Evil Chang is just an outright fool. So He pulls out his gun to wipe his Chang out, but Todd, who's been in the background this whole time, hearing this lovely friendship, power, love, and friendship monologue, he shoots the Chang in the back, knocks him out, and real Chang just basically puts him out of his misery. Real Chang puts evil Chang out of his misery. Boom, that's how the conflict ends. And we flash up, big cleanup's happening. Illuminati aren't very happy that they were lied to by the Dean, but Troy, being a nice guy, says, right, I will pay off all the damages for you guys, and I'll invest in this school. Troy wants to make the school great because it made this friendship thing. So that happens, and the Dean decides, well, everyone's here to throw one last big extravagant dance party. It's one massive dance party, one big school dance. The group are together in the study room one last time, and there's reminiscence about the old days. We might even have like a cheesy, they look at the table and see like their season 1 selves in the chairs or something, complete with the community music going off. And they all leave one by one, and it's left with just Britta and Jeff in the room, and Britta jokes that basically, it's funny how all this started just because you wanted to get in my pants. And there's something like that. Jeff makes a comment about it being the worst, and they have a little fun moment. And they leave, we fade to black, and we get to credits. But then during the credits, we have a Shrek sequence where it's just an entire party. Magnitude's the DJ, everyone's having a dance sequence. Even Brie Larson shows up just to pay homage to the Brie Larson-Arbed relationship in the later seasons. Just
Right.
fun, campy, one last big dance credit sequence. And yeah, that is how I would book Community, the movie.
Fair enough. Very good. Very good.
Most, as I've said, most cheesy thing ever.
Oh yeah, that's what the show was built on, though, right? As smart as it was, it also had, it's hard to describe this show, and I think that's why I love it so much. It kind of borders between reality and just pure absurdism, right? Like these giant paintball games, this giant, blanket fort that spans the whole school. The floor is lava. The war between pillows and blankets, like all this stuff, right? But then there's so many down to earth and heartfelt and human moments in the show, and I think that's what I adore about it so much. And it's kind of just like everything you just said, right? It's cheesy, it's fun, it's relatable, it's absurd and outrageous, but it's all these things come together with all of these different characters, and that's what made the show work so much, and that's what made so many people fall in love with it, and that's why it has such a large, almost cult-like following. And then now I think, like you said, it's really booming in popularity once again because people, it's widely available on Netflix, so people are really kind of flocking towards it to wonder, trying to figure out why it has this sort of cult following. So
Yeah,
I think it's
honestly,
pretty great.
that show, it just, like you said, it has those cheesy moments, it has them heartfelt moments. Often it would be literally the same episode, or even just a line apart. It would go from making a joke to something just out of the blue. Here's a line of food for thought sort of dialogue, and it's just one of those shows that you can relate to any one of the characters, even the characters you don't like. You can sort of see where they're coming from the most part. And I'm not gonna lie, I had way too much fun writing this. I'm kind of glad I put this back a day because I sort of wrote basic notes. I'm like, wait, that makes this not make sense. I've got to flip this round, and oh, it was so difficult. I'm looking forward to see what you came up with because I had a hell of a time trying to think of all this. Because it's like I had to reference so much of the classic stuff.
Right.
I feel what made me truly fall in love with Community actually was the paintball episode, purely because I remember being in school. I always fantasized about what if we just had like a massive Nerf gun or paintball or BB fight
Right.
here.
Yeah.
And Community went and did that. Like that was my chat. I was a teenager. I'm not gonna lie. During fantasizing about this, I was like, wow, just it brings a lot of this childish maturity to life. Because let's be honest, this
Exactly.
generation is just big kids. We're all adults,
Yeah.
but we're big kids, and this show
Exactly.
embraces
Yeah.
that.
Definitely.
But right, let's see what you got.
Mine is a lot less elaborate than yours. I'll say that. I didn't really take many notes. I kind of just it was hard after, especially after I rewatched the final season, because I think it ended on a really solid note. But the promise from the show was always, it was, hashtag 6 seasons in a movie, and that was always the running gag. So I feel that the movie is definitely warranted, but I was also satisfied with where it ended. Mine is almost like a grown-ups-esque reunion type movie where something happens, whether it's a character passes away or whatever it is, or Troy comes back, and that's kind of the main thing, is that they're all just gonna kind of get together for like one night or over the course of one weekend. And the main thing I wanted to explore, at least for like the first half of the movie, is they're all gonna kind of open up by discussing, like, maybe some of them haven't talked for a few years, or like you said, like maybe like Troy came back, because I wanted to have a reunion for all the characters that could be reunited, of course, aside from like Pierce, who had passed away and such, and Leonard, who had passed away, and things like that. So Pierce, of course, in the show, and Leonard in real life. But and I kind of mostly wanted at least like the main discussion. I kind of pictured it taking place in like well, not Britta's bar, but where Britta works part time and such, and just kind of have them discuss like where everyone's at, where everyone's been, how's things going in life. But then after that, I wanted one of them to bring up that episode with the chaos theory, and then discuss where they think each one of them would have been, or maybe not think, but we kind of explore each of those timelines again, the six of them, because of course we're supposed to be in the one where Jeff actually went and got the pizzas. So we're kind of exploring the other six timelines to see where the characters would have ended up as compared to where they actually ended up. And that would kind of take up the majority of the beginning of the runtime. But I think, like you said, the second half of the movie, if we wanted that to be it for the show, for everything, and that's the very end of it, I think that a lot of the kind of, not ongoing, I wouldn't say issues necessarily, but a lot of the ongoing and kind of loose ends really get tied up. And I only just started picturing this honestly recently, and that was that maybe since then Greendale has closed, so it's left some of the cast a little bit more vulnerable. So I kind of wanted it to, them really sort of, I'm trying to think of the ways to word it right, because it's, I like the idea of the start, at least the first half of it, kind of being exploring those different timelines, and then we kind of bring back, and we see that in most of those other timelines, maybe things were a bit better, certain people got together, like maybe in one of them, Annie and Jeff ended up together, unlike where they were at the end of the actual timeline, and maybe Troy didn't leave, and things like that. And I kind of want the whole last half of the movie to be all about kind of like reparation, making amends. So maybe it kind of ends with Troy saying, of course we got that in the episode, but really saying why he left and why he missed Abed and things like that. And maybe he's saying like he's not going to leave again. And then we kind of have finalization. I kind of started to think, I was trying to bat around what Jeff could do, because of course he'd become convinced that he was always going to be stuck at Greendale while everyone else moved away. And I kind of want that to be where he is, but since Greendale has been closed down, he's kind of lost, and he thinks that when they first get back together, he feels like he's going to sort of latch on to Annie and kind of go with her success. But I want it to sort of be revealed that Annie's actually like engaged or in a really committed relationship. And, I'm not really sure the goings on towards the end there, but I kind of want the last like act of the movie to be them sort of breaking into Greendale, and then sort of just having a reunion, come full circle, where it's like the main group back in the study room and just kind of discussing. And then by the end of it, I'm not too sure where I want to go, because again, I was trying to work out a lot of kinks. I kind of just got frustrated, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to leave this to the writers, but I have the main idea. But I kind of wanted to end with Jeff being able to not just, that final kiss goodbye, but be able to fully let Annie go, and maybe he meets the fiance or the husband or boyfriend or whatever at the end, and just kind of shakes his hand and says, like, take good care of her, she's a very special person to me, and things like that. And then I want Troy and Abed to, maybe they start something on their own, like they go away and you find out like, hey, they're going to stick together, and maybe they get like a news show on their own, or they start like a really popular podcast, and maybe it's, in the end, it's Jeff and Britta that kind of end up together, because she's still kind of lost too, right? So those are the sort of things that I kind of have batting around in my head, but I just kind of wanted it to be where, everyone does kind of get, those final, very, the finishing touches, essentially, is kind of what I'm trying to say, right? Those definitive ending moments. And, like you said, Shirley comes back, and it turns out she's very successful. And, maybe, just maybe, so of course it was kind of like a one and done sort of thing, but maybe she wasn't able to repair her broken marriage, and instead, Chang comes in and is sort of like the knight in shining armor for this movie, because they did have that moment in the zombie episode where they're like, oh, we're not going to talk about that. And maybe, she in the beginning acts like she's got it all together and everything's perfect, kind of like you had her in yours. But then as the movie slowly goes on, the group starts to notice inconsistencies in her story, and then she kind of breaks down, revealing that, like, her sandwich shop is, she's on the brink of bankruptcy, and her marriage fell apart, and maybe, one of her kids, or she might lose the custody battle with her kids because she's running out financially and different things like that. And then sort of Chang comes in as this, knight in shining armor, not necessarily that she needs it, but he kind of works as this support system and this kind of, Chang, I guess, however you want to describe him, he's sort of this just wacky character that never really necessarily knows what's going on, but just wants to be included. He sees this as his opportunity to, become a full member of the crew and kind of help Shirley out of that situation. However he does that, I'm not entirely sure, but you kind of see that relationship form, and then by the end of it, they go off together. And I thought maybe since where it all started, like you said, the whole community group started because Jeff wanted to get in Britta's pants, so maybe it's kind of those two again that gravitate towards one another, and they kind of end up together because they need each other to lean on. Maybe she's, in just a shitty, dingy apartment, and she's still just working like part-time at this kind of underground bar, and Jeff's just kind of trying to find odd jobs here and there because he doesn't really know what to do with himself. So I feel like that's kind of the best way to go about it, because again, I feel like almost everyone's favorite episode is that Chaos Theory episode. So kind of exploring the fun, whimsical stuff in that first half of the movie, kind of brings everything full circle. It kind of addresses the darker timeline, and it sees all of everyone's kind of fantasies of where things ended up. And then, of course, we cut to reality where everyone is trying to, glorify themselves that, oh, yeah, we're doing great. Greendale's closed. We're fine. We never needed it anyway, and blah, blah, blah. But then they realize, like, they kind of go back to Greendale, and that's when everything kind of comes out finally and officially. But then that's also where everything kind of comes full circle and gets repaired. And we kind of get all of these breakings off. And, again, like I said, Troy and Abed get their happy ending, like, they always kind of wanted. And then Shirley and Chang, even though it's a bit of an odd couple, they lean on each other because they're both kind of vulnerable, and same thing with Jeff and Britta. And then Jeff is, fully willing and finally allows Annie to go. And as for Frankie and Elroy, I mean, they don't really fit in all that much into my sort of plan, but if you want to have them in there, of course, I guess, Frankie could, be whatever. I guess, I don't know, maybe Frankie's sort of Jeff's, trying to help him out and trying to get him these odd jobs with other certain things, and then maybe Elroy has something to do with it. I don't know, maybe he's Troy's long lost father or something. I'm not sure. I didn't think too much into them. I wanted to feel fulfilled in the perspective of the main cast, and that was the biggest thing for me, is to kind of leave everyone off where we're okay with where they're going. Because I feel like although I did enjoy the finale of the show, I also felt like a lot of it was still left ambiguous. Like, it's just, you could force a season 7 and just have them at Greendale and bring in new cast members. And Annie did say that it was an internship for the summer and she might come back, she might not. And, there was a lot of it that was still a little too loosey-goosey for me. But and again, like we were also talking about this whole time, that Frankie is kind of just a nothing character, so I don't really feel the need to give her a final ending and a satisfying ending. And same thing with Elroy, where he's just gone, he can just be gone in my mind. So I feel like the main cast is what really needs that fitting, satisfying ending, and that was kind of my main focus there. So you're kind of getting a bit of the traditional whimsical kind of outlandish comedy with exploring the different timelines, but then you're also getting the real down to earth stuff and the heartfelt stuff that we love about the show that kind of brings everything full circle. And then we're also getting that definitive ending where we're satisfied with where everyone ends up.
Yeah, I actually quite like that. See, I use definitely parallel. I've leaned into more of like the campy, homage stuff. If you've gone into more of the
Yeah.
conversations, and to be fair, that is
Mm,
what made most of the show, was that it would be the
right.
conversations between them. When they weren't arguing, they would occasionally just somehow get to each other's souls, basically. And you're right,
Exactly.
the original cast never really gets a like finale, do they? Because obviously Troy just leaves, then Shirley just kind of stops showing up.
Exactly, right? And I feel like that's what a lot of people like myself kind of felt robbed of. Like, we did have a satisfying enough ending because you kind of had those final moments between Troy and Abed, but it's not the ending that everyone hoped for. And yeah, mine, my version might be a little too fairy tale ending, but no one loves, a shitty or ambiguous ending for the most part. As cliche as they are, people like their happy endings, and that's just how it is, right? And I'd feel fulfilled, and that's the main thing, right? Is the fulfillment. I'd feel fulfilled and satisfied with the kind of ending that I've brainstormed up, because there's nothing left that can be explored, so there's no chance of a revival, there's no chance of wondering kind of what happened to these characters and not feeling like you got enough out of them. It's everyone again coming back to that full circle swing and then we're leaving them off and we're satisfied with where they're going.
Yeah, like honestly, it's like I said, with the happy endings, I saw a great analogy where someone was talking about the Mass Effect ending and saying,
Hmm.
honestly, people wouldn't have been that bored by the ending if it was just a happy ending because you commit all this time into something. So for us, it's 6 seasons, which is was it like 110 episodes total? Because like the first seasons were like 20 odd, and then the last three were all very short seasons, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just never really got an ending for most of them. Like one thing that always bugs me is that in the last episode, Jeff sort of gets a bittersweet ending. Obviously, Shirley and Troy are gone. Pierce is dead by this point, and Abby and Annie have somewhere they're going. Britta doesn't get an ending in season 6. Now I think about it, she just sits in the
Exactly.
bar. That's it. That's all she does, and she was like the arguably one of the we say the OGs. Technically, Britta was the second member of the study group because it was Jeff, Britta, then Harbed, then the rest came
Mhm.
along.
Yes.
So I always find that weird that Britta has never really got her ending, and it's a shame that
Exactly.
they characters went through a lot in that show. And I guess all that's left to really talk about is final thoughts on the show as a whole. If no one's checked it out, why would they watch it? Certainly.
Final thoughts. I think it's just kind of like a summary of everything I just said, right? It's got everything that you could possibly want, and it's kind of mismatched into one thing. And it's tough to kind of sell someone on the show unless you're into that type of comedy. But it's true, right? It's outlandish and it's hilarious and over the top and just completely ridiculous stuff in there. Again, like the full on paintball matches in a community college for $100,000 and all this crazy stuff, and the a full blown floors lava game, as well as like a zombie apocalypse that's just caused by food poisoning and things like that, right? But it also has its very down to earth and human and heartfelt and just amazing character moments with and a lot of the characters are based off of, almost it feels like each and every one of them is kind of like a part of my personality. Really, if you put them all together, it's almost like one complete whole person. But you take the aspects of kind of like the movie lover in Abed, but kind of like the organization and the anxiety with Annie, as well as the kind of the smart ass and sarcasm out of Jeff and things like that, right? And they really all build up one complete person. But that's not the point. The point is that each one of these people have these imperfections, yet each of them make up for each other's imperfections, right? So they coexist, and they I'm trying to think of the word. They just used it in one of the last episodes, but they're codependent. That's what it is, right? They need one another. They lean on one another constantly. And at the end of the day, despite all of its ridiculousness, is a very human show. Not to mention that it's hilarious. And again, if any of the people that haven't watched it and have watched Rick and Morty by chance, well, the co-creator of Rick and Morty created this show. So if you like that type of comedy, you'll love it as well. But that's just the thing, right? It has a bit of everything for everyone. And rather than some things that try to cater to everyone and fail, because rather than doing one thing really well, they're doing a bunch of things mediocre, I find that this show does a bunch of things well, and that's what I really love about it.
Yeah, fantastic. Couldn't have said it better myself. I can't really. I can't really. I have a tough act to follow there. Basically, yeah, you've not seen the show as you've already said. Dan Harmon, the co-creator of Rick and Morty, has made this show, and this show has a lot of layers of comedy that people can enjoy. It has the blunt humor. It has a hell of a lot of reference humor, and if you like genuine human connection moments, this show has that for you as well. It gives you because these characters, none of them are great people. That's the point of the show. Is none of them are great. All of them have these big flaws that they all ignore, and yet somehow together they are a unit that sits together as a family. You get some of the worst people ever have some of the most heartfelt moments. And I feel in this world where it seems that someone's either got to be completely good or a complete evil person, I like that this show gives you characters that are the blend of both. And that's kind of why I went with my ending on my pitch, having them just
Hmm.
merge, because had the best of both, and this show gives you that. It gives you the best of both sides. And little footnote on your pitch as well, actually, you're saying that Troy and Abed do their own thing. I would love the fact if Troy, because of his inheritance, decides to fund the Troy and Abed show.
Yeah, that's what
That
I mean. Something like that. I feel like whether it was like they managed to get like a channel for broadcasting, or they just had a really successful podcast, or they had like a sketch comedy show. it doesn't really matter. I just feel like they deserve that ending where, they were best friends, they were inseparable. And then, of course, it wasn't the fact that they wrote him out, it was the fact that he wanted to focus on his music career, which, of course, is also very successful. But as the characters Troy and Abed, they didn't necessarily get the fitting ending that I think they deserved. And that's why I think that idea right there is genius, where it would be perfect if he was like, I'm back and I'm not going anywhere. Like, here's all my money. Let's do something.
I know it would be a dream ending. Imagine that last shot of the movie is just Troy and Abed in the morning.
Yeah, something like that, right? To kind of close out and then fade to black from there. Perfect.
It would be absolutely glorious. But I feel like we can gush about the community all night pretty much. So just to wrap things up, is there anything you want to plug while you are here? Speak loud, speak proud.
Sure thing. Yeah. Well, if you're looking to find me anywhere, I'm on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at BAMTubeTV. I try to cover a wide variety of things. Mostly movie topics. I also try to cover a little bit of video games, a little bit of movies. I do top tens, ranking videos, discussion videos, all sorts of fun stuff. So you can check me out on any of those platforms.
Yeah, definitely check him out, guys. This guy is really good. I've pretty much been following you since I started on here, actually. And it was a lot of fun to have you on. And if you do like what you are listening to on SoundCloud for some reason, give me a follow. And if you like what you've seen on this channel so far, like, subscribe, that usual spiel. Follow us on our socials, because we tweet about a lot of stuff that we're really into around there. But everyone, that is community. If you've not seen the show, watch it. Pitch for that movie, please. Just help us get that hashtag traction. And yep, coming up on the channel, as you know, I do reviews, do the occasional ranking, try and do podcasts every now and again, and I do have a Wild Life movies come out episode next week as well. But until next time, I am Josh, that has been Brett, and oh my god, I am right, this is not how you sign things off. Okay, anyway, try that again. My name is Josh, I have been the Movie Apprentice. Thanks to Brett for joining me today. I'll see you all in the next video. Hey, thank you for watching, and thank you for making it to the end of the video. While you are here, if you haven't done it yet, please feel free to drop a like and consider hitting that subscribe button for more reviews coming all the time. And also, while you are here, there are some other videos over there that you might want to sink your teeth into. Have a good day, guys, and do enjoy.